Welcome everyone to the second in our three-part health and wellbeing series, proudly brought to you by Master Plumbers and our partner Incolink. My name is Thanuja Gunathilaka and I'm the head of membership at Master Plumbers. Before we start, I'd like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land upon which we are meeting and pay my respects to their elders past, present and emerging. Today's topic is cybersecurity and how to protect the health and well-being of not only your business, but your people. We have a great lineup today of speakers. We've got Tessa Bowles from NAB, who's joining us online, as well as Zolt Silmicki, who's here with me today. We've got Nathan Warnicki from ITRO, who are IT providers, both to Master Plumbers and many other businesses. And we've got Dr. Soundthram from Incolink. So welcome, everyone. Our speakers will be talking about a range of topics, including the incidence and impact of cybersecurity attacks, how to protect your business, and how to respond in the event that you do fall victim to one. Okay, so to kick us off today, our first speaker is Tessa Bowles from National Australia Bank, NAB. I'll tell you a little bit about Tessa before we start. Tessa is passionate about educating and empowering NAB's employees, customers, businesses, and the community with the life skills they need to ensure they know how to stay safe online. Tessa has been involved in the banking industry for the last 12 years, having experience in operational roles, and has specialised in learning capability and security awareness uplift for the past 7 years. Okay, over to you, Tessa. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you for that lovely introduction. Hi, everyone. Thanks for coming along today. In the next about 10 or 15 minutes, I'm just going to give you a really high-level run through what we're seeing in the Australian environment. And then we're going to focus on a couple of the threats that we're seeing impact businesses. And then we're going to run through very quickly around what you can do if something does occur, where you can go, and leave you with some websites where you can go and check for more information. Excellent. So without further ado, what are we seeing in Australia and globally in terms of cybercrime? So very high level, what is cybercrime? It's really any crime committed with a device that's connected to the internet. So we are seeing, unfortunately, a rise in the number and frequency of cybercrimes and on the impact of Australian businesses. The Australian Cybersecurity Centre, which is a government entity responsible for all things cyber, they run a portal called Report Cyber. They're very ingenious there in the government, but they receive a report every 6 minutes, and the average loss for a medium business is around $97,000. So massive impacts to Australian businesses. And a lot of businesses think with these types of crimes, they only really occur with large institutions such as banks or government institutions. Over the last probably 5 or 6 years, we have seen a real shift for the cyber criminals focusing on small and medium businesses because they know a lot of small and medium businesses maybe don't have the resources or protections that a large business will have. And just drawing your attention to that number up in the top right-hand side of your screen, 74% of these incidences or data breaches at organisations involve us as humans interacting in some way with the messages that criminals will send us. Who are the people that are doing these crimes? Well, we have sort of 4 major categories of cyber criminals. Your hacktivists and ideologically motivated people tend to just like to try and disrupt things. The government-sponsored nation-state are primarily focused on other governments, such as, targeting our defence or the like. And malicious insider or employee could also cause a breach at your organisation. But the one we're most concerned about at NAB and the ones that attack us as an organisation and also are going after small and medium businesses is that first group, the organised crime and the cyber criminals. They are called organised crime for a reason. They are unfortunately very organised. They're, of course, not bound by any red tape, regulation or laws. So if they find a method of acting that works well, they can use that very quickly. And we do find also information sharing between those organised crime groups as well. So if one group finds a method that's really effective, they share it amongst their peer groups as well. So unfortunately, it is a feature of our future. And it's not just a concern while you're at work and protecting your business, but also in the home as well. But in terms of the threats that we see businesses face, and unfortunately, we see them reported to us all too frequently. Number one would be the business email compromise. So, this is a term that's used to describe when a criminal's target a business's email. They'll usually gain access to that email account by sending a phishing message, which is a message designed to look like it's coming from somewhere legitimate, but it's not actually who it's coming. It's not actually coming from who it says it's coming from, or pretending to come from. So once someone clicks on a link, and it will usually, be asking for their username and password. So if an individual gives that out, the criminals have access to that email inbox. And think about how much personal or private or company information sits in your emails, and you can see why it's an attractive target. So once the criminal has access to your email inbox, they'll use that access to have a look through, use your contact list, and potentially send them emails pretending to be you, in an effort to gain access to other businesses. But mainly they're looking for invoices or payment details being exchanged, so they can intercept those emails and change them into an account details that belong to the criminal. So this is just an example of a phishing link that someone may have clicked on. The best advice we have in terms of protecting your business around payment details is, when you are ever advised of a supplier or a customer, etc., changing or updating their payment details, take a moment to pick up the phone, contact that person, and just confirm if that payment instruction is correct. We also recommend doing that if you're setting up a payment relationship for the first time. If you're advised of the payment details via email, please call them, use another channel, and don't call the number that's involved in the email that is telling you about the change of details. Hopefully you've got a previous email on file, or even just search the intranet for that company or that person's number to make sure you're calling the actual number of that company. And just to show you a real example of this, so this is an email from a solicitor called Barry to his customer Julie, who was purchasing some property. They've spoken on the phone, and Barry said, "I'm going to send you through the account details for you to pop your deposit into." Now, unbeknownst to either of them, Barry had gotten one of those phishing messages. He'd clicked on it and put in his username and password, so the criminals had access to his email account and saw this email going out. And very quickly, they followed up with a second email saying, "Hi, Julie, sorry, last email I gave you was incorrect account details. Please pay to this account." So it has come from Barry's own email address. But if you ever get these types of messages, please take a moment to pick up the phone and call that person or company just to confirm if it's actually from them. The other big threat we are seeing, again, lots of different size companies being targeted by this, is ransomware. So ransomware is malicious software which is designed to either steal the information from your company or lock up your files. So if you try and access them, you basically just get gobbledygook. And the criminals will ask you to pay money to get access back to your information. We certainly recommend having a look at cyber.gov.au ransomware just to see what you can do to reduce the risk of this occurring. And ransomware is one of those things that once it's on your devices or on your network, it can be very hard to remove. So we also recommend having a backup of your information, so that if you are ever affected, you have the information you need to continue on with your day. If you check out cyber.gov.au, lots of great guides there, and the ransomware one is very helpful. but lots of steps you can take. Number one, government advice is to implement the Australian Cybersecurity Centre's Essential 8. So these are 8 steps to either prevent malware running on your systems or limit the extent of a data incident. Some of these items are much more easy to implement than others, such as multi-factor authentication. That's where you log into a system and you pop in your username and password, and then usually you get a code to your phone, for example, which you then have to input. So multi-factor authentication, you can usually turn on in minutes depending on the system, but we recommend turning that on in as many places as you can. So if your business has social media, put it on there, definitely your emails, all types of online accounts. One piece of advice about this Essential 8 is not to get overwhelmed. Again, the ACSC has a couple of different guides online for those. But if you do one of these things a week for your business, it will be more secure at the end of those 8 weeks. Recognising as well that some businesses do outsource their IT service. So if that's the case for you, I still recommend having a look at this and taking that to your service provider and saying, what can we do? Or what are we already doing? Or what can we put in place? The other thing we can do very simply to keep ourselves safe is have good password hygiene. Sure, none of your passwords are appearing on screen right now, but if they are, please change them. Criminals know that it's very hard for us to remember unique passwords for every system we're going into, so lots of people reuse or recycle passwords. We recommend the use of a password management tool. That way you can store those in an encrypted vault, which protects those and can even generate them for you. But if you think about your online safety, think about it in terms of a layered approach. What can you do technology-wise to reduce the risk of something occurring? What can you do with your people, making sure your people are aware of what suspicious messages look like and how to, what actions you want them to take? And what are your processes in place so you could potentially stop something occurring, or if something does occur, you know about it quite quickly. So we recommend obviously regularly checking your accounts and making sure everything's current and correct, reporting anything that's not. And even doing something as simple as including the topic of cybersecurity as a point on your risk reviews, so you're keeping it top of mind for your business and your people. Lots of information can be found at nav.com.au/security. We've got some really basic training. We have free webinars that are held monthly. You don't have to be a NAB customer to come along to those. We encourage any and all Australians to come along. But we do have articles and updated alerts, plus a very simple toolkit for businesses to implement to improve their security postures. But I'll leave you today with the top 4 to-dos for your business to reduce the risk of a cyber attack affecting your business. One is implementing the Australian Essential 8, turning on multi-factor authentication in as many places as you can, making sure you have a backup of your data and setting up auto updates, and teach your teams around what are those red flags of suspicious messages, and invite them along to a webinar if you think it will be helpful. That's the end of the formal presentation. I'll leave that slide up just for a little while if anyone wants to take any pictures. But I think we are open to questions.
Thank you, Tessa. That was really informative. Do we have any questions from the audience? Feel free to turn on your mic and ask a question or pop one into the Q&A section at the bottom of your Zoom screen if you have one.
I think Jennifer's waving at us. Go for it, Jennifer.
Hi, thanks, Tessa, for that. That was good reinforcement of some things, so thank you. Password protection tools. I use one in my personal life, but I'm wanting to implement it for business. I see lots of different products, and then I see a lot of negative things about different products too. Is there 2 or 3 that you would recommend?
Very good question. Due to the nature of the role, I can't actually recommend a specific product for you.
Yes.
But I would suggest, even if you do, depending on the business needs, there are great free and paid options. Even if you do a quick internet search on top 10 password safes, Sounds like you've probably already done that, but I would also look for one which encrypts its data at rest. That just basically means that they don't store any passwords in a format that can be used. Because there are concerns, obviously, with giving one organisation all your passwords. But if you're looking for one that has encryption at rest, then if there is a data breach, then that information can't be used in any way.
Thank you.
Thank you for your question.
Great. Does anyone else have a question? Okay. Thanks, Tessa. I've got a question for Zolt sitting next to me. Zolt, could you tell members a little bit about what NAB can do to support their businesses in this space more broadly?
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely. Thank you so much for having us, by the way. It's such an amazing opportunity. One of the reasons that we partnered up with Master Plumbers in the first place, about a year ago now or thereabouts, was because we want to add value. At this day of age, we know that, running a business with inflation, all the costs going up, it's important to keep the costs down. So we put together a special offer just for Master Plumbers. It's designed for the industry, and it includes merchant services and transactional banking products in particular to make the everyday life of the plumbers a bit cheaper and easier to manage as well. So we put together a deal that specifically discounts merchant service fee. We know that that's something that's very much on the online when it comes to taking payments from their customers. To get this discount, all they have to do is go online to the member portal, download the expression of interest form, and then one of our specialists will get in contact and walk you through the different options, and how to take up the offer. But it's not just about the discounts; it's about technology as well. One of the things that we introduced recently is obviously everyone knows that there are those big bulky EFTPOS machines that sits at every cafe and things like that, right? So what we realize is that you do have to have a mobile option as well, right? So we introduced what's called an NAB Easy Tap. It's essentially an app that turns an Android phone into a payment taking device. It's an EFTPOS machine. All you need to do is just download the app. We do the rest in terms of hooking it up in the back end, and then from there on, as the plumbers go around and carry out their business, they need to take card payments, which we know is important because invoicing can take sometimes time and energy to, in some cases, chase, whereas card payments are instant. So you can just take the payments through the mobile. So that's what we sort of decided to do. Well, love to be here, support you in any way we can.
Thank you. Thanks, Zolt, and thanks, Tessa, as well. We'll be sharing some of the links and more information in the follow-up emails after this webinar, so don't stress if you haven't written them down. Okay, we're going to move to our second speaker now. I'm going to scooch this way. Sitting next to me is Nathan Warnicki from ITRO, who, as I mentioned, is our IT service provider for both Master Plumbers and a whole range of other businesses. Before we kick off, I'll just tell you a little bit more about Nathan. Nathan has over 30 years' experience as an IT professional supporting organizations across a variety of industries. Having built a company from startup, he knows the importance of people and working ethically to create long-lasting relationships. He views technology as a means of creating a business outcome. Nathan works to design IT systems with security and business goals in mind, using non-technical language so business people can understand what they need to know and not have to worry about the rest. Thanks, Nathan. Over to you.
Thank you. Thanks for having us here today, and thanks for the opportunity to talk to you all. Have we got the presentation going? Great. So we're just going to take a little bit of time to. Sorry, I'll take the right things on. Yeah, it's better. I think I'd be better with technology, wouldn't I? Okay. So just a little bit to talk about what we do and who we are. As Thanuja said, we're a managed service provider. We look after IT for businesses. And An important thing that I guess, in the context of what we're talking about today is that aspect that none of our clients that have actually taken on board our recommendations have been subject to a cyber attack or have fallen victim to a cyber attack. And so whilst that it could sound like a little bit of a brag, we don't intend it that way. What it illustrates is that it's really essential that you take the advice of your IT provider, and that you get good advice, because if you do, you will be protected and in a good position. So what we're going to talk about a little bit today is who's responsible for cybersecurity, the different types of attacks, which Tess has touched on a little bit as well, and we'll perhaps get into them a little bit more, how to protect your business, the different ways that you can protect yourself, and importantly, what to do if you actually are attacked, how you can respond to that situation. So who's responsible for cybersecurity? Once upon a time, the answer to that was your IT guy. But really, things have changed so much in recent years, and the determination of cyber criminals is off the charts. Never underestimate how intent different parties are to hack your systems, and it really takes a unified response from everybody involved in your business. There's different legislation that's involved these days, and so it's really gone beyond the realm of your IT person and into the realm of management and business owners as to who's responsible for containing this risk. Some of the different threats, I think Tessa mentioned this, but just to reiterate, this first threat, this is the one that we see affecting everyone all the time. Criminals, state-sponsored attacks. This is where threats are coming from. Of course, there's other threats when it comes to different contacts and employees and that sort of thing. But really, it's those state-sponsored criminal attacks where we see this. And what's interesting with these stats that we see here is that, system faults, IT faults make up a very small portion of the problem. A big portion of the problem is really human error and malicious attacks. So that's something that illustrates that need for everybody to be actively involved in that. So this is interesting numbers here. The cost of a cyber attack on small business, $45,000 is from is a statistic there. That's something that we can really attest to. We've seen those sorts of spends come from responding to these sorts of cyber attacks with different customers that we've worked with. And a really important detail here is the length of time that cyber attackers will often penetrate a system before it becomes evident that you've been breached. And really, this is how the intel that they source during this window is how they effectively come up with a good cyber attack. And when we talk about business email compromises that Tessa mentioned, what they're doing in that 277 days is really gathering information so that they can make a really realistic cyber attack, a realistic email that you will fall victim to. So it's very important that you have systems in place that can detect these breaches, even if you are unaware of them. Just a couple of little pointers on how we can spot different threats, different email threats that we mentioned: email compromise, business email compromise, and online banking fraud. These are the top three reported cyber threats, and the things that we really want everyone to be aware of. So when we talk about phishing, that's where you get an email with encouraging you to click on a link or to give up some information. We talk about spear phishing. That's where that email gets more targeted. Someone's looked you up on LinkedIn, they found out what your name is, they found out what your job title is, and they're actually sending you an email that they think will be appealing to you, something that you'll fall victim to. Business email compromises. This is what Tessa mentioned, where your emails are breached and you're then tricked into sending money or other information to a third party. And just by way of experience, we've worked with customers that have transferred payments of $30,000, $15,000, $500,000. This is a real problem. It really happens. So take those steps of doing the confirmation phone call. Make sure you know who you're sending money to. We can't emphasize that enough. And malicious links, this is the human factor. You get an email with a dodgy link in it and people are curious. It's like, maybe I did get a package from Australia Post that I wasn't expecting. So we want to be aware of what these links are. Best way of protecting yourself is just looking at the links. You can see there in this slide, you've got a link there that looks like it's legitimate. If you hover over the link, you'll see that it's taking you to somewhere quite different than what it's advertised. And this is an example of a email that we received in our office. A very convincing attempt. And what's common with this, what's convincing about this email, I guess, is that there's a lot of legitimate links on there. You've got the location, you've got the privacy policy, all of these are legitimate links. The one fraudulent link is the call to action where it says, click here, act now. So it's really doing a good job of making it look like a very convincing email. So how to protect yourself and your business, whether you're in or out of the office. We talk about this layered approach a lot. So we're talking about protecting the people. So having training programs in place to inform and educate your staff. We want to protect your infrastructure, and we want to protect your devices, your laptops, mobile phones, computers, all of that sort of thing. So whether you're working at home or remotely, you want to really pay attention to what you're doing. Working at home is often the bigger risk. You're a little bit more relaxed. You may be sitting on the sofa with your laptop. That's when you need to be cautious or raise your alert level a little bit so you know what you're doing. We want to protect our devices, especially when we're accessing data online, using different apps and accounts. Just think about whatever you're doing, wherever you are, what's the risk here? How can I protect myself? In particular, that last one, when we're using public Wi-Fi, remote charging stations in airports, particularly in perhaps other less regulated countries, they're great opportunities for viruses and things to be introduced to your device. So just be careful of what you're plugging into your device, be careful of what you're connecting to, and if you are connecting to these sorts of public networks, perhaps that's not the time to do your banking, things like that. An easy way to check whether your accounts and email addresses that you use have been compromised and your passwords. You've got this website here, Have I Been Pawned? You can look that up. You can put in an email address and it will tell you all of the passwords that have been compromised with that email address. So you know not to use those passwords. And as again, Tess has mentioned, we recommend use a password manager. If you're a business with multiple staff, use a password manager that allows you as a business owner to revoke those passwords and get them all back when your staff leave, and perhaps never actually exposes the passwords to the staff, just allows them to pass that through to do what they need to do for their job. So we talk about security, we talk about the layered approach. Tessa mentioned the Essential 8. This is our security checklist that really builds on the Essential 8. The Essential 8 is a great initiative. It can be difficult to apply in the real world. So this is, products and technologies that we've put together that really targets each aspect of the Essential 8 and helps you to comply with those. So if you have any questions about that, please feel free to reach out to us later and we can help you out with that. But the big one on that product, if we could distill this whole presentation to one slide, where the one slide would say MFA. Turn on MFA, use MFA everywhere you can, any website that you access, anywhere you put in a username and password, turn on MFA if it supports it. So if your business gets hacked, there's a strong likelihood that, if you're subject to the Privacy Act, if your turnover is over $3 million, you're legally responsible for the data that you've got in your business. You quite likely have to report this data or this breach. So we recommend in that context, get advice and make sure you're doing the right thing. So thanks for your time and attention. If you have any questions, please feel free.
Great. Thank you, Nathan. Does anyone have any questions? While you're thinking, we do have a question that was sent through earlier. Nathan, many businesses now use a whole range of software packages that are cloud-based. What are your thoughts on that? And is there anything businesses can do to minimize risk and exposure to cyber attack through those platforms?
Yeah, it's as we said, MFA is a really good thing to do there. Most cloud applications will support MFA, and perhaps if you're using a cloud app that doesn't support MFA, it might be time to really talk to that vendor and say why not, and what can we do to secure that, because it really is the best way of preventing unauthorized access.
Okay, great. And particularly for small businesses, it may not be financially viable to be able to outsource their IT. Often in small businesses, most business owners are the jack of all trades.
Sure.
So, in your opinion, and I suspect I know what you're going to say here, but is the cost of setting yourselves up in terms of cyber security, is it worth doing, or are you better off waiting to respond to something when it does happen?
Yeah, well, we saw some of those numbers there of the cost of responding, and they're very real numbers. I think in the past we've seen some numbers, where they say, oh, you get a virus, it costs $1 million to respond, things like that. They're very unrealistic. These numbers that we've seen from the I always get this acronym wrong, the government that the government's put together, the OAICD, I think it is. They're very realistic numbers, like $40,000. It doesn't take long for your IT consultant at $240 an hour to get to those sorts of numbers when they're recovering from a breach. So it's really worth spending the little bit of money to protect yourself. And a lot of these protections are not very expensive as they compared to what they used to be in the past.
Okay. In the event of an email compromise, who's liable? Is it the person who sent the email or the one who received it? And
it's a good question. I don't know. I don't know the answer to that.
I think Tessa might be able to.
Yeah, maybe Tessa can answer that one.
I was about to say I can jump in. That is a little bit of a hairy one, but typically, if you're sent in like funds off the back of an instruction, it'll be the person who has sent the funds. Because really it could be, the compromise could be on either side, and until you determine which email account's been compromised, the person that you were sending funds to, or it could even be on your end, it can be quite hard to determine. But that's why we recommend picking up the phone, calling that person or company, because once the funds are sent, it can be very hard to recover. And usually it's the person who's doing the sending who loses out. I have heard of some companies taking that liability aspect to court. I don't know how they've turned out, but it is a relatively, well, it's not a new thing. It's been around at least probably a decade, but usually the person who loses out is the person who has sent the money. So, yeah, always good to double check.
Probably sense that there's a uncertainty around the outcome of these kind of situations. Hence why the prevention is the key. And I think this is why it's so important what we do today, is that let's not find out, we cannot really get that money back. Let's make sure it never happens in the first place. And so I think these steps are crucial.
Nathan, is there anything else you would advise in addition to MFAs? Is there anything else as a minimum baseline that you'd advise business to make sure they have in place?
Yeah, as well as MFA, as Tessa mentioned, the password manager is a really good idea. It means, if you haven't used a password manager, effectively, it means that you can not know any of your passwords yourself. The password manager generates a unique password for every site that you access, every password that you need. When you go to log into it, all you need to know is the password or your password vault, and the password manager passes that through to the website, to the application. So you can have a really long, complex 15-character password with all sorts of crazy characters in it. You don't need to remember it. You don't need to know what it is. The password manager just does it for you.
And I know Tessa wasn't able to name any particular providers. I'm not sure if you are. But
We're maybe not so constrained yet. a corporate password manager that we use ourselves is called Keeper. It's very good because as we mentioned, it allows you to, as a business owner, to keep control of those passwords. You can share passwords with your staff and never expose the staff password to your staff. Your staff get their own personal private vault as well as part of that. Other ones, LastPass is another common one, Dashlane. They all work quite well. But what we sort of recommend with all of these passwords is turn off the password manager in Chrome, in Edge, in Firefox, and just use that one application, whatever one you decide to use, so that you've got your password manager working across all your different browsers, working on your mobile device, and then you've got your passwords with you everywhere.
Okay. And can we be fairly confident that those password managers are not going to be hacked?
Well, that's the $1 million question. There have been, I mean, obviously there's attempts on them all the time. So far, LastPass is one that was attacked a little while ago, but even in that attack, none of, as far as I'm aware, none of the actual passwords were revealed. So generally speaking, they've got very good measures in place to protect themselves, obviously, because but it's a case of what's the worst, what's the most likely scenario. If you use, your pet's name for your password, well, that's going to get breached. Is your password manager going to get breached? Well, perhaps, but they're going to tell you about it. They'll have a response plan in place. It's the lesser of two evils.
Great. Are there any last questions out there for Nathan? No? Okay. Thank you so much, Nathan. Okay, through the magic of television, I've now got Dr. Sansarum sitting next to me.
I need to take a deep breath. After all this presentation, I feel like, oh my God, there's a lot of information. I'm one of the culprit who puts my pet's name every year, I change the year. And I've been scammed, I have to say. That's why I moved to NAP. Thank you.
Fun. Okay, so Dr. Santha is going to talk to us a little bit around stress management and some techniques to help us in that space. I'll tell you a little bit about her before we kick off. She holds academic credentials as a social worker, drama therapist, art therapist, licensed counsellor at level 4, and clinical supervisor. She has received multiple accolades and participates actively in community service. She has been accepted for the 2024 Honorary Doctorate Program in the Arts. So thank you, Sandra, for joining us today. Over to you.
Funny when somebody calls me doctor. He called me Sandra, but I'm going to be okay. Yes, okay. So now, that's fantastic. The first slide is all about safety mind, safety self. Look, I'm going to do minimum talking. I want the audience to participate. I'm not going to pressurize you, but I can't see the names. If not, I can call you, yeah? Okay, what is your understanding or what are your thoughts on safety mind? I'm going to look at you first, okay? What is your understanding? I can ask the panelists too.
Sure. I think the first thing that comes to mind to me is, I guess, building the mental resilience to deal with life.
Nailed it. Anybody else? Panelists, do you want to share your thoughts?
Probably going to go iPhone 64 on the Zoom. I'm very much like to, Zasia. I think that nailed it, and it's an important topic to talk about because sometimes I feel it's a bit of a taboo. So I think it's very important to still call it out. So look forward to hearing what everyone has to say.
Thank you.
Yeah, I agree as well. I think Lucha nailed it.
No, safety mind, safety self is very important as an individual or as a business owner, because this is looking after ourselves, mental health. And if we're going to leave it, suppress it, I always say your little child, which is your subconscious mind, is going to hold it. One day, have you tried this Coca-Cola bottle, just suppress it and shake it and then open it? That's what it's going to come out. We call that emotional outbursts. So we don't want that to happen. So that's why we said we need to look after ourselves. We need to make sure that we are safe. But I know after hearing this presentation, I'm a bit trembling because I need to go and change my passwords. And I go to this is floating in my mind. Keep password manager. What else? Oh, I've got the app in my phone, so I've got to do all those things. That's my homework. So there's a lot of stress. Every day there's something new. I don't know how many of you watch current affairs news. There's stabbing, scamming, and now the latest is the youngsters' addiction to online. So, anybody got any thoughts you want to share? Come on, this is not going to be a quiet presentation. No, we'll just move on. Okay. I have difficulty in pronouncing that word there, that little almond shape. Who is going to actually normally when I go for presentation, I always bring chocolates and I can give it to you all if you give me the right answer. So who can pronounce the name well? To be honest, I'm not sure how to pronounce it either. I'm going to try it, but can somebody be brave enough to try it?
I think it's the amygdala.
Okay. Anybody else? Want to give it a go? All the attendees are very quiet. Can I get a name, any one of them?
Sure.
Patricia. Hi, gorgeous Patricia. Do you want to try that? Just mute yourself.
You're on mute.
Amygdala?
Okay, fantastic. Tessa, you did the first presentation, so come on, try that. Give it a go.
I would have said amygdala as well.
Okay, whatever it is. This is in that brain, that almond shape. You know, when we fear, this is the culprit, I would call that. Okay. It starts sending signals to our body. What happens when we fear? Oh my God, I've got my KPIs to meet. I've got my timeline. I've got appointment, telehealth appointment at 1:30. I'm like, this thing will start activating and we get into panic mode, anxiety, stress, whatever you name it. There's a long list. So now we know why we are fearing all these things are happening, okay? I'm not good with this technical stuff, but I'm learning. So what do I do? It's $1 million question. There are so many strategies, so many things is floating in the market. But what do? I want you to focus on yourself. What is in your control? When you are in that kind of panic state, there's 2 questions. Reflect. I'm using reflective practice here. Reflect on this question. What is in my control? Another one is, what is not in my control? We always focus on what is not in my control. That's why we become very panic, stressed. Look, I'm also one of the culprits. Because today I had a bit, not yesterday, yesterday I had a bit of an emergency at home. Big fight with my teen daughter. And I know I can't change her attitude. That is not in my control. But I was trying to change her attitude. But at the end of it, you know what happened? I had a bowl of ice cream I enjoyed with my 3 doggies. That's why I become a bit sick. So we need to focus on what we can do, what is in our control. Then look at the resources available. There's so many helpline support services and everything. Okay, overcoming fear. Gosh, you need to trust. Trust yourself. Trust your belief. Trust that hope in you that I can do it. It is a roadblock. There's limitation. Look, if you're driving in a road, suddenly your GPS not working and there's detour sign, bugger. There's so many construction works going on, okay? And you're standing there and your GPS not working, you can't call anyone, your phone battery died, and then detour sign. What am I going to do? I've been in that situation a number of times. I always carry with me some slices. I'll sit down and eat my slices. I return back. I can't do anything. That's all in my control. So if I'm going to be panic, I have been in a situation, panic attack. I stop my car in the middle of the street, middle of the road, but I can't go anywhere. I need help. But this is what I learned. I evolved with my experience. See, all of you all got lots of experience. Focus on it. trust that fear and change it or use it to your advantage. I hope I'm making sense. Okay. How do you engage the fear and feeling safe? I don't have an answer for this slide. You know why? The fear is personal to you. It is very personal how I feel. And how I want to feel safe, it's also personal. If I'm in a room like this, if I want to feel safe, I need to have a cup of water. That's my way of feeling safe. And at home, if I want to speak to someone, especially with my teen daughter, I need to have 1.5 meter distance away from her because I can throw things. This cup's broken. Did anybody got that experience? I'm not violent, but has anybody got that experience? What I do normally, when I get angry, I go out to my backyard, I scrub and scrub and scrub. Clean up the whole backyard, even the paint, everything is gone now. I'm only very new to the home. That's what I do. I get rid of my anger. So that's what I need to do to look after myself. But sometimes deep breathing, meditation, yoga, walking with my dogs, everything helps. It depends on what I want to do for the day. And a nice cup of tea in my favorite cup. It has to be really thin and sip it slowly, slowly. And put your favorite music on. I like jazz music. I'll put it on and I'll just sip my cup of tea. That helps me. But breaking the cup helps me too. Don't do that. Don't quote me. Okay, now. Do you all know this old man? I like this quote. No problem can be solved from the same level of conscious that created it. See, when you have a problem, you are in certain state of mind. And you think in that state of mind, you're going to solve the problem. I'm sorry, I'm not being rude. The answer is big no. How can you solve a problem when you're so anxious, angry, and things like that? You need to release it, let go. Letting go. That's why I always encourage people to write journal. Go and buy a pink colored journal and then write there, forgiving self. Write all your thoughts there. That is to let go. You're saying sorry to yourself for holding that emotion. So that's the purpose of this. So after this session, I want you to go and buy a pink journal and chew. Okay. Oh, I've not changed this thing. Is there any questions or anything? No, very quiet audience. Okay, now we're going to come to self-care strategies. I'm going to put it in 3 perspectives. One is passive self-care. Passive self-care in the sense like it's just looking after yourself, your basic needs. Showering, having a healthy lifestyle, going to gym, being happy, cooking meals and everything. So when you're doing that, when you have a shower, add this little thing to your shower. Under the running water, just comb your hair through. I did that today because of what happened yesterday. That kind of helped me because when you're doing that, you are just stimulating the gold nuggets on your scalp. And then go to the mirror and say, my day is a happy day. I'm very happy today. That's it. That will work. So this is under the passive self-care strategies. Fun self-care. All of you from today onwards, I want you to go to Kmart. You've got to do 2 things, okay? I'm not promoting. I love Kmart. Buy a pink journal or yellow journal. Another one is blow bubbles. I've got a dozen. I forgot to bring today. I always blow bubbles when I feel a bit tensed. And it's like, tapping into your inner child. Bring it out. This happiness is within you. And try and get hold of this book, Happiness 101 Days. Everything you can find something to be happy. So what? My account has been hacked. On that day, I was blowing bubbles. I lost a lot of money. I got it back after 21 or 28 days later, which I had the deposit for the house. And I thought, if I'm going to cry, I cry. I'm not lying. I cried. After that, I took the bubbles and I started blowing in a bowl of ice cream. Then go to the bank and fix it. See, this is fun self-care strategies to look after yourself. Expressive self-care, try doing this. If you're a dancer, if you're not a dancer, challenge yourself. Put a lovely music. I'm not encouraging you to put Bhangra music, okay? Any music, just go with the flow. Either just put the music and just have your favorite drink, not alcohol. Anything that would engage yourself in an expressive way. Writing journal. Challenge yourself. Go and buy a canvas. Again, Kmart. Cheaper. Canvas, some crayons, color pencils, everything. Splash the paint. Why not? That's expressive self-care. So I've got 3 categories for you. So this is what we need to look after ourselves. We can be in any position. We can be high flyers or, on the groundwork or anything like that. We need to look after ourselves. We are working for the company, but at the end of the day, if you don't look after yourself, I'm sorry, mate, I'll kick you out and I'll find another person. If I'm the boss, that's what I need to do. I've already reminded you to look after yourself. So you need to look after yourself. And you have people dependent on you, your loved ones, your pets, everything. Mortgage is a big thing. I need to negotiate with NEP whether I can get a better rate or not. I'm going to try it now. See, he's trying to escape. With this presentation, end of this presentation, I'm ready to give you a clearer lens, because if you got a foggy lens, please accept this clearer lens with humbleness. And are you ready to take it? It's your choice. Nobody can force you. I can't put a gun against your forehead and say, no, you have to take it. So it's your choice. And the next one, I love this figurines. That's my favorite. And my daughter's favorite too. We fight like Tom and Jerry, but this is what we do at the end of the day. And there's a link there, YouTube link. This is about this gentleman. It's called Turn On. And he's got so many other music pieces. I loved it. And I got the permission from him to share this. I think you should listen to this. It's about what has happened. He's writing a new chapter in his life now. That music says a lot about it. So now onwards, if you have anything, every day write a new chapter. That is what we deserve in our life. Be happy with anything simple. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sam.
You're welcome.
Can I just say thank you to our presenters, to Tessa, Zolt, Nathan, and Santharam. Thank you so much for giving us a very broad perspective on not just cybersecurity, but how to support the health and well-being in your business and with your employees. This is the second in a 3-part series. Keep an eye out on your inboxes for the next one, which will be held in June. As I mentioned, we'll be sharing some of the links and resources that were shared today by our speakers in the follow-up email. And again, reach out if there's any other questions you have in the meantime. Thank you so much for joining us. Have a great weekend, everyone.